For millennia, humanity has hailed the cannabis plant as a spiritual and medical tool, opening new pathways in the brain. The oldest recorded use of cannabis comes from 2800 BCE in China, where it was listed in a medical document. It would later go on to see common use across Asia, including India. This substance has been revered as holy by some cultures and demonic by others. Today we are going to demystify the cannabis plant and explore how it works in the body. The beauty of the cannabis plant comes from compounds that are synthesized in crystalline gland-like structures on the surface of the plant. These glands produce a variety of different compounds, including terpenes, flavonoids, and most importantly for this video, cannabinoids. Cannabinoids don't just appear on the cannabis plant, they are also found endogenously and occasionally in Chinese labs. There are three main types of cannabinoids found in the world. Endocannabinoids. These are produced naturally by the body and are used as part of a vast signaling network used to maintain homeostasis within the brain and immune system. Phytocannabinoids. These are produced in the crystalline glands or trichomes of the cannabis plant. These are the most well known. Synthetic cannabinoids. These are produced in that Chinese lab I was talking about. They are incredibly dangerous and should never be viewed as a substitute for phytocannabinoids. They will not be discussed further in this video. The human body has a vast array of cannabinoid receptors that span all over the body. This system plays a variety of roles in the brain and immune system. Today we are going to focus on the brain side of the system, but some of the immune stuff will also be touched on. There are two types of cannabinoid receptors, CB1 and CB2. The CB1 receptor is used to regulate brain function. It is so critical to brain function that it is the most common receptor in the brain. When the receptor is activated or blocked by cannabinoids, it causes a regulation of glutamate and GABA within that section of the brain. Activating or agonizing the receptor leads to psychoactive effects and cognitive impairment, whereas blocking or antagonizing the receptor leads to a decrease in hunger. The receptor has a variety of uses within the central nervous system, such as for pain, the receptor is used as a regulatory point between the signals from the peripheral nervous system and the central nervous system. For motor control, the receptor has a modulatory effect on filter circuits the brain uses to adjust motor control. For mood and reward, the receptor is responsible for modulating dopamine release. For appetite control, the receptor has a hand in controlling hunger signals from the brain. For cognition, the receptor plays a role in learning and memory consolidation. The CB2 receptor is used for immune signaling between the central nervous system and peripheral nervous system. It can be used for inflammation control and regulation of autoimmune responses. It doesn't really play a role in the neurochemical effects of cannabinoids and as such will not be discussed further. Now we are going to take a peek inside what the brain uses as part of the vast signaling network by examining the two most abundant and used endocannabinoids, these being 2-AG and anandamide. Ever get a feeling of internal bliss, whether that's from the completion of a big task or after a big workout? You might be feeling the effects of the bliss molecule or anandamide, named after the Sanskrit word ananda, meaning internal bliss by the scientists who first isolated it. This molecule is a powerful tool of the brain, some scientific papers going as far as to suggest it has its own reinforcing effect on the reward system within the brain. Anandamide works by reducing the amount of GABA and glutamate that is released and used by the brain. This method of action has a variety of uses in the brain. For pain, the reduction in glutamate caused by the release of anandamide, along with its modulation of the TRPV1 receptor, produces an analgesic effect. For appetite, anandamide suppresses full signals in the brain. For mood, the cannabinoid has anti-anxiety or anxiolytic effects in the brain. For memory, it modulates long-term memory consolidation. This is evidenced by the fact that during memory-intensive tasks, the concentration of anandamide rises. For reward, it causes the release of dopamine. Now, you may be wondering how you can increase your natural levels of anandamide. Well, to do that, you have to look at the beginning and end of its life in the brain. Anandamide is produced on demand at the postsynaptic side of the neuron and diffuses back to the presynaptic side. It is produced with omega-3 fatty acids, so eating a diet rich in omega-3s will help to boost levels of this molecule. Now, looking at the degradation of anandamide, it is degraded via fatty acid amide hydrolase, or FAR. Inhibiting the release of FAR into the brain tends to see a spike in anandamide. A good cannabinoid FAR inhibitor is CBD, which will be discussed later. And that's the bliss molecule, a critical neurotransmitter that is responsible for keeping us well and sane. The next endocannabinoid to be discussed is the most abundant endocannabinoid in the central nervous system, 2-AG. 2-AG's primary purpose within the brain is to fine-tune synaptic strength on demand. Like anandamide, 2-AG is produced on demand in the postsynaptic side of the neuron and then diffuses back to the presynaptic side. It is a full agonist of the CB1 receptor and as such plays a variety of roles within the brain. Some functions include: for pain, it dampens signals between the central and peripheral nervous system. For memory, it helps with spatial and contextual memory. For reward, it can modulate the release of dopamine. For mood, it produces an anxiolytic effect in the brain. From an effects perspective, this cannabinoid isn't the most interesting. It's primarily used for maintaining the homeostatic state of the brain. Now we are going to discuss the two major phytocannabinoids, THC and CBD. These two chemicals were only isolated recently, but the effects have been a major part of human culture for millennia. To begin with, we are going to focus on the major psychoactive cannabinoid, THC. THC is a mystical substance with many myths born out of its consumption. For example, many Hindu scholars believe that the god Shiva consumed cannabis after consuming the halal. Other tales tell of the cannabis plant having a divine origin. The cannabis high that has been for so long revered is created by three simple interactions that THC has in the brain. First, it dampens excitatory or glutamate signaling within the brain, while at the same time it boosts the inhibitory or GABA signaling. Then, the third mechanism that produces the euphoria so closely linked with the cannabinoid is the release of dopamine. If you recall from earlier in the video, all of this is standard stuff for agonists of the CB1 receptor. It affects all functions of the ECS. This can best be seen by the effects created by the substance. Euphoria from the dopamine release, standard stuff for CB1. Alter perception and motor control from the effects on filter circuits, once again, standard stuff for the CB1 receptor. Appetite stimulation through suppression of satiety signals, once again a standard function of the CB1 receptor. One of the most interesting parts of the THC is that in low doses it has an anti-anxiety effect, but in large doses it can induce anxiety. This is why the plant must always be respected. Start slow and enjoy the joys of the high. And when you build a tolerance, slowly increase the dose. Respect the plant and it will respect you. Chronic abuse of THC leads to a tolerance build at the CB1 receptor. While not physically addictive, anyone who tells you THC is non-addictive is lying to your face. When it gets to the point you need to smoke before every meal, it is clearly and undisputably an addiction. Using at this level has negative effects such as cognitive impairment, psychosis risk, and alterations in the brain's neuroplasticity. THC is a molecule that deserves respect because overuse of it will come back to bite the user. As I said earlier, respect the plant and it will respect you. The final cannabinoid to be explored is the often life-saving CBD. CBD interacts with a variety of systems outside of the ECS, including the serotonin and TRPV1 receptors. CBD also has a secret superpower. It is able to moderate the high generated from THC due to its antagonistic relationship with the CB1 receptor. With its wide array of interactions, CBD also has a variety of side effects, most positive. Due to its interaction with the TRPV1 receptor, it produces an analgesic effect. Due to its interaction with the serotonin receptors, it has a strong anxiolytic effect. Due to its regulation of dopamine release, it has shown potential as an anti-addiction and antipsychotic treatment. CBD is also a FAR inhibitor, which means that if you recall from the earlier section on anandamide, will cause a natural rise in this endocannabinoid. Taking CBD during a tolerance break can be helpful to get your natural endocannabinoid system back to working order. As THC causes a downregulation of anandamide, so these levels can be boosted on a tolerance break with CBD and a high omega-3 diet. CBD is one of the few cannabinoids that is FDA approved for epilepsy. The brand name for CBD oil is Epidiolex, and that's a wrap on phytocannabinoids. I hope you learned something about the safe administration of these substances. Our bodies have a complex signaling system within them called the endocannabinoid system. This system helps to regulate a variety of systems within the brain. The brain has natural signals or endocannabinoids which can interact with this system and are used as part of a regulatory system. Some plants, such as the cannabis plant, produce cannabinoids too. These too can interact with the ECS, but always take care to respect the plant.